In 1846, Edgar Allan Poe wrote an essay in which he described how he methodically and logically composed his poem, The Raven. I don't pretend to have the same poetic talent or the same methodical practice when writing lyrics to songs, but I thought it might be interesting to document my lyric writing process for the last song I wrote, something called Hey When I Die. Now here you see the final lyrics as of March 23rd, 2026, but they started with a much shorter idea that I jotted down just 3 weeks before completing the song. These words are not meant to be final lyrics, but only to sketch out the idea for the song, which at the time was called When I Die, and which outlined some of my rather idiosyncratic concerns. Specifically, that my kids might want to check out my childhood drawings that I kept in a box in the attic, and that I hoped that they would also keep my YouTube account active. Well, about a week later, I came back to the lyric idea and decided to try to meld it onto a melodic idea that I had literally been playing on the guitar for decades. Something like this. Well, there are lots of endings. I mean, I didn't know quite how it would end, but that's the basic idea. I thought the lyrics might actually fit with this melodic idea, except that I needed an extra syllable in the first line. So When I Die became Hey When I Die, which was fine with me since it hinted at the informal and ironic sensibility I was aiming for. And, actually I started singing it as Hey When I Die, na 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 na. And then I realized that phrase, na 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 na, was just like the Beatles' Little Help from My Friends. So I changed it from da na 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 to da na na na. Anyway, a detail. I kept the first few lines pretty much unchanged, but added a second half to the first verse with a word in the last line of the second half that would rhyme with the last word in the first half. There's also another internal rhyme in each half of the verse. This is based on something unintended that I discovered when I started singing it, that the word kid rhymed with the first syllable of the word digitized. So I kept this rhyming pattern in each half of each verse. In other words, the rhyming structure of each verse is AAC, BBC, or using the words in the first verse, kid did past, and then to do trashed. Okay, I also added a chorus that created both a different musical feel. There's a lot more space between the phrases, unlike in the verses where the words are sort of nonstop. And it also provides a contrasting attitude to the verse. Rather than focusing on my own idiosyncratic thoughts and wishes, which clearly don't acknowledge the sentimentality and seriousness of the subject matter, the chorus takes the focus away from me and directs it toward my children, so the tone becomes more empathetic, less flippant. You can see that the second verse hasn't been worked on yet, but the basic melodic structure of the song has been set. The next day, I worked on the second verse, giving it the same structure as the first, while retaining the initial idea about maintaining my YouTube accounts. I returned to the lyrics the following day and also fleshed out the overall song structure, adding an instrumental verse sandwiched between two new choruses. I also made some changes to the second verse, replacing the recorded imported rhyme with enough and stuff. But the strategy of contrasting the somewhat flippant tone of the verses with the more empathetic tone of the choruses was retained. I also made a tentative third verse, which for now was just a repeat of the first half of verse 1. The next day, I made some changes to the chorus after the instrumental verse and replaced the tentative third verse with a new third verse dealing with the choice of burial options and the idea of an informal gathering of friends for some sort of memorial service. For the third verse chorus, I wanted to tie in some empathetic words from my children with something that was happening musically in the chorus. You see, in order to resolve the modulations and key changes in the chorus, I found it useful to transition to a minor chord, F minor, in order to get back to the dominant or fifth chord, B flat, and from there back to the tonic or E flat for the start of the new verse. I thought the use of the F minor was interesting and a bit unexpected in this context, so I added the metaphorical minor chord into the lyrics at precisely the point where the real minor chord appears in the music. Right here, that was the F minor, and then it ends back up at the E flat. Anyway, I also repeated the second half of the third verse as the fourth verse, but with a few changes to the lyric. The next day, I tweaked the verses and choruses that I already had. In the second verse, I got rid of the enough stuff rhyme and replaced it with foundations and publications. Similarly, in the third verse, I got rid of the overhead dead rhyme and replaced it with road and load. And more importantly, I made the third chorus with the minor chord reference more consistently nautical by changing the first line to include, "and the vessel your sailing's unmoored," rather than using the line ending with adored. And this is so the last line's parenthetical advice to throw it overboard made more sense, or at least was more consistent with the rest of the chorus. And finally, I added some more lines to the last verse, keeping the "miss you so much" line, and then adding a bunch of new lines, all rhyming with much. So there's out of touch, sort of crutch, meaning as such, and dogma to clutch. Now, even though the last verse has the same number of lines as the other verses, it's actually quite different from the typical verses, both in its lyrical and melodic structure, and it's intended to create a definitive ending for the song. Well, when I looked at the song the next day, I decided that now that the song had 4 verses, the instrumental break was really too early in the song, so I moved it to the end of the second verse. I also reworded the second verse, changing the foundations publications rhyme to "why should I care, things that are there." I made major changes to the third verse, taking the gathering friends part out entirely since it was already repeated in the fourth verse, and adding some dark humor about expensive and monumental burial practices, like not wanting to be embalmed and displayed like Lenin and Mao. At this point, the overall structure of the song and its lyrics are pretty much in place, except for further refining and tweaking the lyrics, and one more major structural improvement to the lyrics that is yet to come. In any case, the next day I tweaked the second and third verses, keeping the main rhymes. But the day after that, I decided to embellish or amplify the rhyme scheme so that instead of merely having AAC, BBC, the verses would be structured as AACD, BBCD. In other words, there would be an extra pair of rhyming lines in each verse. So in the first verse, I kept "over the years" and changed "won't matter to me" to "won't bring me to tears." And for the second verse, I kept "everyone's able" and replaced "even after I'm dead" with "like an internet fable." For the third verse, I kept "mahogany coffin" and replaced "Irish Hill Road" with "visit me often." The last week involved a number of tweaks, some reverting to previous iterations and some new. The last tweak just added a couple of words at the end of the chorus following the instrumental break that I had already been singing for a while. So adding them just sort of made it official. So that's the song as it stands now. I suppose it's possible that there will be more changes before I officially record it, but probably nothing major. Here's how it sounds now. Hey, when I die, find those pictures I made as a kid in a box that I put in the attic. I digitized most of them over the years, but I can't seem to bury the past. You and your brother, well, you might want to keep one or two. I don't know if it's something you're eager to do, and it certainly won't bring me to tears if they end up recycled or trashed. Hey, when I die, I know you can handle the pain, and if you try, you'll find the path through the stress and strain over and over again. Hey, when I die, won't you manage my YouTube account? Yes, I know that my songs won't attract the amount of attention of a viral sensation, but I still want to keep them afloat. And while you're at it, you'll find that my websites contain all my books and my papers. I hope to remain open access so a new generation can discover the stuff that I wrote. Hey, when I die, you can say I'll be setting you free. No need to cry, this is the way it was meant to be all throughout history. Hey, when I die, you won't need me to explain, but I'll still testify that the sun will come out after every rain. You can watch it shine again. Hey, when I die, there's a few things I'd never allow. Number one, don't embalm me like Lennon or Mao. Number two, no mahogany coffin. And number three, no big monument stone. 'Cause there's way better options that are cheaper and also are green, like that natural burial place that I've seen out in Newfield. You can visit me often and watch how the meadows have grown. Hey, when I die and the vessel you're sailing's unmoored, that tear in your eye is gonna end up on a minor chord, so throw it overboard. And when you gather the friends that we've known for so long in some place where they're serving good food with good song, well, I already miss you so much, just thinking about how we'll be so out of touch. Not to use my own dying as some sort of crutch, when it's true irrevocable meaning as such makes it hard to imagine any plausible dogma to clutch. Hey, when